Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Through the Fire. I am your host, Ryan Wickline, and today we're joined by a very special guest. He is a founder, Mr. Hadley Nightingale. How you doing today, Hadley?
Hey Ryan, thanks for having me, man. Looking forward to conversation day, and yeah, doing great.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy that you're a day ahead of me already because
Yeah,
you're
man.
calling
Yeah,
from New
Tuesday.
Zealand.
Yeah, Tuesday morning here, so a glimpse into the future,
Yeah, awesome. So the number one question the audience is probably wondering, who is Hadley Nightingale?
mate. Good, probably. Yeah, great starting question for people who don't know me. I suppose at the moment, or now I'm known to be the property guy in New Zealand. Built a business over the last sort of 7 years. We've scaled from sort of myself up to 13 people. But it wasn't sort of always like that, man. I started out in the trenches back in 2006, got caught out there, made some really bad property and business decisions back then, and moved to Australia, where I was, working on a farm and driving road trains and basically, the middle of nowhere to try and make some money to get myself back out of a really bad financial position that I was in. And then that sort of taken us to where we are now with our goal and our mission is to reduce the risk and stress of investors doing it alone through our services, but more so just so that people don't have to go through the same journey that I went through when we made those first sort of, they weren't fatal, but they sort of lost, well, they were fatal to my 20s. I more or less lost my 20s to working as opposed to having a good time and getting on with things.
Yeah, I think a lot of us fail early on in life, and sometimes that can be beneficial for us, and other times, people take it as, it debilitates them where they never want to try again.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's that thing, right, of the whole way through that. I could have gone, hey, look, this is all too hard. Why me? Poor me. Throw the hands up in the air and leave. Leave and just do nothing. Be happy with the 9 to 5 job, or to go, well, hang on. There's some lessons in this, and not that those lessons are always easy to see at the time. But as time goes on, you tend to look back and go, well, there was a bit of adversity there. There were a few challenges, but they've made us better on the other side.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you spent time driving trains, working in mines, and even a stint in working in family court. What did those careers teach you the most about yourself?
Um, so in terms of like the road train side of things, so yeah, that was pretty intense. That was basically out of Perth in Western Australia, driving up to the northwest, driving in and out of mine sites, cutting iron ore. We were cutting gold ore for a little bit, cutting some general freight. So it was really a mixture of things, and like a trip can take you, a day to a week, and you're never quite sure, when you're going to be home, and weather events happen, and you get stuck in the middle of nowhere, and it really teaches you a whole lot about sort of resilience, and no one's coming to save you out there. As you by yourself having to figure these things out and keep on pushing on.
Yeah. Out of those three, which one did you like the most? And which one was probably your least favorite?
Oh, so the family court thing, I've never worked in there. It's been something that's been going on in my personal life for
Oh,
the last 8 years. And so yeah, out of the road train side of things was interesting. The agriculture side of things was also interesting as well. But I suppose the new business and where we are now is the place I like the most. But I don't think we could have got to where we have without the journey along the way.
yeah. How do you think those jobs prepared you for where you are now?
More so along the resilience side of things, and I suppose the stress and the responsibility of being in charge of like a $1 to $2 million piece of equipment in the middle of nowhere that's yours to take care of and make sure that you get it from one place to another. And when things go wrong, you're the one that has to fix it. You can't ask for help, and there's days there where you just think, oh, I wish I wasn't here, but you've just got to push on through because you haven't got any other, you haven't got any other choice. It's one of those things that the position that I had myself in was I just had to find the highest paying job, And my philosophy turned into, well, if I just keep the wheels turning for longer, I get paid more and I can get myself out of the situation and then it'll all work out. So also with that in the background too was sort of like a factor that kept on pushing.
Yeah, awesome. What led you back to real estate then?
Well, the first sort of purchase I made was in '06, and at the time, I knew that there was, people always make money in real estate. And it was one of those things that like, look, however I've done this the wrong way. And so what do I need to do, or who do I need to find that's going to teach me how to do it the right way and get myself sorted? The other part with that too is that when you're sitting in a road train all day, when you're in a mine site, you've got two options. You either listen to the radio, you listen to music, or you got three options, or you can listen to something that's going to get you further ahead. And so I had hours of listening to Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, audiobooks such as Rich Dad, Poor Dad on repeat. So it sort of got drummed into me for hours on end there as well.
Yeah, so mindset is definitely crucial.
Yeah.
Like a crucial part of like going to accomplish something big, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, man. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right.
Yeah.
And that's the quote, but it's true. The second you tell yourself, "Hey, look, this is a little too hard, I'm giving up," well, that's exactly what you're doing. And there's been a heap of times that was the case, and I haven't always been resilient in my thinking, and there's been plenty of pity parties along the way as to like, poor me, why am I in this situation? But hindsight being the great thing that you can look back and go, well, look, what did I learn? How do I get better? Really needs to be the focus on things.
Yeah, I love that you just like kept listening to like all those inspirational speakers,
Yeah,
and books, and just like learn to rewire your brain and the way you thought about challenges.
yeah. I mean, you in situations like that where you're not around huge amounts of people, especially in the driving side of things, is like it suits an introvert down to the ground because you might have to talk to one or two people a week. You're not having to go and meet people and talk to people all the time. The downside to that though is that, and this is also over 10 years ago when technology wasn't quite like it is now. We were still using Skype at the time. FaceTime wasn't a thing. Starlink definitely wasn't there. And so it was more or less a case of like, if you had cell phone reception, you could talk to someone. You'd see some other people on the road, but you tended to lose your ability to communicate properly because you just didn't have things to talk to people about. And so that was, that was the other sort of challenge and side to it as well. Is that you've then got to go, well, look, where I am now and what I know, who can I get myself around and what can I listen to make myself better, to get myself further ahead? Because sitting here in my little ecosystem, listening to the radio all day isn't going to push me any further ahead than where I am now.
Yeah, that is so true. And a lot of people will just continuously just not feed their brain the right positive things to make that adjustment.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I looked at the people around me and went, well, do I want to be where they are when I'm 60 or, and there was still some guys in their 70s still out there working, going, look, do I want to be there? And if it is, cool, I'll just carry on down the same path. If not, then I need to change something to get myself ahead.
Yeah. Awesome. You founded New Zealand Properties in 2020. What inspired you to start your own business?
I always wanted to, and it was more so I probably would have done it earlier, other than the fact of like licensing requirements. And so, it's always, I'm not a great employee. I always, see things where I think there can be improvement and stuff like that. And the corporate environment doesn't particularly suit me with the speed of it. Doesn't suit me particularly well. So, it was more or less a case of sorted out my initial licensing stuff. I did 3 years of supervision for, got that out of the way, decided that we were going to go and start this business. I decided I was going to start this business, I should say. And then it was around COVID time. We had lockdowns here in New Zealand. The day that I handed in my notice resignation from the company I was with was like lockdown was 3 days later. So it took about 6 months to get things, started. But there was also the family court stuff at the same time that sort of put a dampener on things for the first 3 years of that anyway. And so we started to get properly serious in about 2023.
Nice. So what was probably, you'd say, the biggest fear you had to overcome in starting your own business?
Probably a little bit about the uncertainty of where money was going to come from. The issue that I have, it may be a positive, but it's also a negative in things, is my eternal optimism for how quick or easy things are going to be, which I keep proving to myself. Things always take longer and always cost more. But that's just me and my eternal optimism to be like, right, cool. That this shouldn't take too long. This shouldn't be too hard. Let's just get on with it. Give it a go. If worst comes to worst, I can always come back. So, there probably wasn't a whole lot of fear, but it's probably more so disappointment because with that optimism also comes the hope that things are going to change and things are going to get better. But when they take longer than what I'd sort of naively thought they had, then disappointment, creeps in at that point. But that's the joys of or the downside, I suppose, of having that sort of attitude or mindset.
Yeah, I think that's one of my biggest problems too. Is this ain't gonna take half as long, Like I'll only take about a year or two. Next thing you know, you're 5 years in. Like, oh, now you're finally starting to gain momentum, and about how long it usually takes.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's it always takes a bit longer and costs you more than what you think. But and it comes down to the thing, right? I think everyone overestimates what they can do in 12 months, but underestimates what they can do in 5 to 10 years. And it's that longer term game that gives you that stability.
Yeah, exactly. How did you identify the gap in the market for buyer focused representation?
Back when I first came back to New Zealand, I was working for a property company, and we were doing real estate events around New Zealand and Australia. And the items that we were selling were like property mentorship in New Zealand, property mentorship in the UK, and the buyer representation was big in the UK. They called them sourcing agents, but there was no representation here in New Zealand, or there was one company that did a little bit of it. So, what I sort of was thinking at the time was like, right, there's an opportunity here that we need to look at. The next challenge then was trying to find an agency that understood it, that would hold my license to get things started. But the second thing with that was also like when we were going out looking at open homes to purchase property, was that there were people that were just uneducated with no idea, negotiating against real estate agents all day, every day. And so it really came down to a thing of, these guys are out in the market. They've got no idea. They're poorly represented. The vendors are represented through real estate agents, and they negotiate every day. But there's the guy on the other side that's just out there taking advice from the parents, the workmates, the neighbors, about a pretty serious investment and a pretty serious amount of capital going out of their lives.
Yeah. In 5 years, your business scaled pretty rapidly. What were the strategies that enabled your growth?
At the start, there was no strategy. It was just a case of where it was go, 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 and probably a whole lot of shiny object syndrome. So the thing that happened was that I got an opportunity to start a project management or property management company first. I agreed to it without fully knowing what I was getting myself into. Went home and told my wife, and she sort of raised her eyebrows and went, "What are you thinking?" And then the same guy that gave me the opportunity for the property management said, "Hey, look, if you can I've got some projects that I need done. If you guys can, look after them for me, then that'd be great too." Me being me, said, "Yep, no, that's cool. Let's do that." Now, the issue that I then had was that I had three services that needed 3 people that were operators. I couldn't just get an EA to run, or an offshore person to go and run all 3. They had to be a Kiwi-based person, and I didn't have the time to run all 3 as well. So I ended up having to employ 3 people at a higher level. So they're all taking between $70,000 and $100,000 salaries at the time. with a business that's generating sort of $700,000 a year. And so it's a case of like all the profit of the buyer's agency is getting stripped out to support the project management and the property management. And we got through that. And a lot of that came down to my wife's involvement back into the business to get the systems and procedures set up, because we just didn't have a whole lot of them. And so it was really about getting systems and processes in place so that people knew what they were doing. And that was probably one of the biggest learnings for me, and just how I'm wired is like, well, I'm employing you as a property manager. Surely you should know what a property manager does and just go out there and get after it. And so, I mean, a big chunk of that was obviously on me and my lack of, system there. And I had a coach at the time, and he kept saying to me, look, if you get better systems, you'll get better people, better systems, better people, better systems, better people. And he said, like, you can't expect someone who's outstanding to come and work for you on day one when you've got nothing for them. And I sort of scratched my head and I couldn't see it at the time. But now over time is like, right, we've got some really, really good systems in at the moment. And our people are getting better. And those people that we've got now wouldn't have worked for us 5 years ago. Or 4 years ago. There's just not a hope because the systems and the platform wasn't there for them.
Yeah. So it's like kind of like your coach was kind of using the John Maxwell phrase, the law of the lid. You can't attract people that are above you, in your lid,
Yeah. I think you've also got to have a pretty big vision for those people too, in terms of like, hey, look, this is what we're going to create and this is what we're going to do. But you can't do that if you haven't got the space to sit down and think like that as well. So it's always this thing of like, or the lesson for me from that was that I went too wide too early, which, caused problems. Like one thing until successful, make $1 million in one thing, then go to the next. But also too, when you're so busy running around, you also haven't got the vision to try and bring in those high caliber people because you haven't got the time because you're too busy running around putting out fires.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. What challenges have you faced managing a distributed team across time zones, and how have you overcome them?
So yeah, the biggest challenge initially, my answer is probably going to be the same for this one as the last one. But it really just comes down to systems and processes and making sure that people know what they're doing. So the first couple of EAs that I hired was like, hey, look, let's get an EA because I need a hand with my calendar and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, hey, cool, here's my login to my emails, here's my login to my calendar. Just go and do EA stuff because you're an EA. Now that sounds stupid when I say it out loud now. But that was thinking at the time, and I couldn't work out why these people couldn't do the job. And I mean, I look back now and go, well, it's quite simple because you didn't give them a roadmap to follow. You just said, hey, look, you're in the middle of the desert, go for it, figure your own way back to civilization, and don't dehydrate yourself on the way. So that was the biggest challenge initially, and it's still something that it's a challenge you have with growth. Is like at the rate that we've been growing over the last few years, everything breaks every 6 to 12 months. And it's what I keep saying to the team is like, look, we've got process and system today. They're going to be broken in 12 months. We're going to bring new people in. There's people coming, there's people going. It's just what happens in a growing business. And just be, ready for that. If you're after somewhere that hasn't got any chaos, that's just nice and calm and flat, you're in the wrong place, but there'll be some exciting upside there.
Yeah. So you're saying every 6 to 12 months, you got to rebuild new systems in place to handle your growth.
Yeah. It's 100% a case of, rebuilding every 6 to 12 months because, what used to work doesn't work for us anymore. When you could just be on the free version of stuff, all of a sudden now the free version doesn't work because you need this. And then it's like there's a whole lot of really simple stuff that happens that you don't think of. And then you get bogged down and you look back and you go, right, cool. We're on 6 different network or, 6 different systems where we can just have to transfer over to this one here so that we can, wipe them out, just be on one platform. And there's a whole lot of shifts internally that happen that you don't realize And at the start too, you haven't got the capital to be on the one system that gets you there. You've got to be segmented across a whole lot of stuff. So there's always a whole lot of consolidating, regrowing, consolidate, regrow as you go through.
Nice. What have you probably learned the most about hiring a remote team?
On the remote side of things, trust's a big thing for us. And that as soon as trust's broken, then we can't have you here is really the long and the short of that one. One of the biggest things and the other thing too is like around culture. Just culturally, obviously every country is different. The majority of our team's based in the Philippines and do a phenomenal job. And I think like their feedback to me is that other people that they've worked for, haven't treated them like people. They've just been a number that sits on the other side of the world, and you just send them a message and they do the thing. So like a big thing for us is knowing about them, knowing about their family, what they enjoy, what they get up to in the weekends, just like you would anywhere else. And that may seem really basic, but it seems to be a thing with VAs is that people just don't treat them like people, unfortunately, just as a commodity. And but they're some of our best workers.
Yeah. Nice. What are the biggest misconceptions investors have about buying property, and how do you help your clients navigate them?
Biggest misconceptions is that it's difficult, and that you have to follow what the media says, and most of the time, it really comes down to doing the opposite of what the media says, and going and being a little bit contrarian and counterintuitive, and that's probably the misconception, but also the hardest thing at the same time is swimming against the tide. When everyone else is doing one thing, you're the one doing the other. Sometimes you sit there and you keep yourself awake at night thinking, am I doing the right thing? But as Warren Buffett says, is that be fearful when everyone's greedy, and greedy when everyone's fearful. And that's really the hardest thing and the challenge there for for new people and the misconception as well.
What role does technology and communication play in supporting remote buyers and international clients?
I mean, the technology side of things is huge. Obviously you're there in the States, I'm here in New Zealand. We can sit here, we can have a conversation, we can talk about property, we can talk about business. I can, if we were having a conversation around what to buy, then we've got the option of like, hey, look, let me just share my screen with you. I'll run you through what we're seeing, what the issues are, what the options are. Let me run you through the neighborhood, what the place looks like on Street View. Here's all the information that we've got. So from like a client-facing perspective, makes it unbelievably easy. The same with the team perspective. We can jump on Zoom. I can get to know you, as face-to-face as what we possibly can through a lens and through a cable. But yeah, and it's the same with the team on that front as well, getting to know them and putting a face to a name rather than, before video calling was a thing, picking up the phone and hoping the other person on the end was who you thought it was. Yeah.
So do you have a lot of meetings then?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, Mondays are packed. Is meeting day from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. just back to back. So yeah, I just try and bunch them all together on one day just so that we've got that knocked out for the week. And then try and have as few as possible for the remainder.
Yeah. I don't like too many meetings in a row, man. I used to hate them. I'm like, man, come on. I don't want to come talk to you guys again. So I understand on that one. It's like, let's just do it and get over what to be done.
Yeah. Batch them together on a Monday and get on with it for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I like that. What were the biggest lessons you learned going from an operator to a business owner?
Is the hardest thing is learning to work through people, and that you can't do everything yourself. And the times that you're like, it's just easier for me to go and do this because it's quicker, like just has to stop. And because there's two things that happen. A, you annoy people because you end up going and doing the job and you end up stuffing things up. But B, it just makes people reliant on you as well. And they keep coming back to you rather than you being able to go off and do your own thing. And it happens now where people ring me or they email me and they're like, hey, I just want to get your opinion on this, or I was talking to one of your team members about this. What do you think? And it's like, well, look, you're better off to go and talk to the team member about it. Like if you guys have been talking about it, then you guys go off and do that, because that's going to be the right thing to do. If I get involved, I'm just going to add confusion to this and stuff it up. I mean, like if it's something that's ridiculous and harmful to the client and isn't going to be good, then obviously I'm going to step in and say, hey, look, let's just get this back on track. But for something where a team member said something that looks like a legitimate option that is good, then it's sort of like, why are you coming to me? And then you just got to let people do their thing and be there for them when they need some help. And like, if the team doesn't know, next steps, they always come back and go, hey, look, I'm not quite sure about this. What should we do? But you've got to have trust in the people to go out and do their job and do what they do best.
How long did it take you to get to that level of trust?
I'm pretty trusting off the bat. The thing with me personally is like, I'll trust you. I won't trust you with everything off the bat, but I'll put a fair amount of trust into you at the start until you prove me wrong. But as soon as you've proved to me that you're not trustworthy, then we've got some problems, and trust is extremely hard if it ever gets earned back, again.
Nice. What advice would you give to someone thinking about starting a business right now, but kind of had some fear holding them back?
The first thing I do is go and sell the idea. Go and get a wait list. Get some people, they're wanting the product before you go and start. So sell the product before you've got it. And then that just figures out whether you've got market fit or not. You don't, and then that way, you're not going out wasting time building the product. And even stuff like if you were going to sell a course, sell the course first, then build the course and say, hey, look, the course starts in 4 weeks' time. Take a deposit off people, pay the full amount in 4 weeks, because you've got some people that are lined up out the door. I think people get way too hung up on having the perfect product, the perfect system, the perfect this, that, and the other thing before they get started. And then they spend 6 months on that. Then they go to market to find out the market doesn't want their product, and they've wasted 6 months. Go and sell it first. Find out whether you've got a client base for it. If you've got a client base for it, execute the build and do it that way rather than the first.
Nice. Great advice. What would you do differently if you were starting a business again today, and why?
I would start a business that's got recurring revenue, so that you're not having to go out and chase customers each and every week. So hence the reason for us, the property management's such a great business model. I would just do one thing until successful. So I heard something the other day where a guy said focus stands for focus on one course until successful. So $1 million in one service before bringing another service into things. Because that way, you've got yourself to $1 million. You need 2 or 3 people working for you to keep it running. You've learned how to work through people. You've then offloaded some of the stuff that you're doing onto them, so that you can go, if you are going to go and start something, then you can go and get into the next, the next business, the next piece, without having something that's fledgling to then try and split your time and things go backwards in a hurry.
So it's pretty much that old adage line, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, and focus on one thing. It's super easy when things are tough to go, oh, right, I saw this other guy. In fact, I saw on Instagram the other day, this guy is selling widgets and he makes $10 million a month and I'm only making 5,000. So therefore I need to go and sell widgets. Oh, widgets aren't the thing now. Let's go and chase this because I saw this other guy on the internet who's now making $1 million a month doing Y. And so obviously there's a point there where you've got to cut your losses if things aren't working. But generally speaking, if you've tested your market, you've got some idea about what you can sell. There's an audience there for you. You've just got to go out and get it. And it's probably something that's wrong with your business model rather than potentially the product itself or the audience that you're targeting. As opposed to the business itself. And then you test it for a while. And if in 3, 4, 5 months it's still not working, then go and look at something else. But you're better to get something imperfect underway than procrastinate and wait. or chop and change every 10 minutes because you don't think it's working.
Yeah, great advice. How can people get a hold of you?
Best place for us, mates, on Instagram at Hadley Nightingale. We've got all our content goes up on there. Reach out to us on the DMs, have a conversation, and be more than happy to chat with people.
Awesome, and I'll drop all that in the show notes for everyone too. Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
No, I think that's pretty much it. The main sort of points being that thing of like, if you're starting a business, sell something before you spend the time on it. If you're looking at property, do the opposite of what everyone else is doing to a degree. Look at the contrarian angles. If the media is telling you now's not the time to buy, it probably is. And when the media is saying to you, property is the best thing in the world, it's probably not. I did some reading through some articles the other week where it was, and like New Zealand's got this love affair with property. And I went back through news articles from like 1978, 1989, early 90s, 2008, and you could more or less put, it was like Kiwis, the run of the run of gain through property is finished. We'll never see this again. Well, that was in 1978, and you could buy a house then for $30,000. The median price in New Zealand at the moment is probably in the 700s. And so it's like you can pace these things through time, and then like 2008, it's like billions of dollars have been wiped off housing equity. And then in 2025, it was like $100 billion worth of equities being wiped off the housing market. So it doesn't matter where in time, but if the media is telling you about it, they probably got it wrong.
That's some great advice right there. I never knew that. And I'm sure it's the same globally.
Yeah. Just like do a Google search on like whatever you're looking at and go tell me the news articles over time that would do it through Gemini, because it seems to have the best reach for that sort of stuff. But go back through time, look at the newspaper articles that were about topic X and give me a timeline. And so it'll go back through and give you the timeline on those. Nice.
All right, final question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with about overcoming adversity?
The biggest thing for that is like when you hit the place of fear is just taking one more step. So what happens is that if your life's a ball and that you get to the edge of the ball, or a bubble is probably the better example. Like your life's in a bubble and you've got your boundaries or the edge of the bubble that you can go to, and that's where fear sits. Now, if you just push a little bit further, then the bubble expands. You don't want to go too far and pop it, but you just want to go a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, step by step. I think Tony Robbins says is that like when you feel the fear, just take one more step. And I think that's really the biggest thing is like you don't need to sprint off into the distance, but when there's that fearfulness, or if you're buying a house, rather than going straight to looking at houses, go and talk to the bank, see how much money the bank can give you. Can you even get a loan? And then, right, you've spoken to them. Who's the next person you need to go and talk to? Go and find a lawyer or a conveyancer so that they can look after the transaction for you. Right, cool. Then do the next step. And it's the same with business too, is like, I've got this business idea. Great, cool. Let's just go and watch a video a day on YouTube to figure out, how I can get some clients, what my business ideas might be, rather than just going straight to the wall and going, I'm scared, I can't do this. Just break it down into little steps.
Yep, I love that. Like, that's one thing I use all the time is chunk everything down. You can't climb the mountain all at once.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Awesome. Well, Hadley, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your great insight and knowledge with us.
Awesome. I appreciate it. It's been, I've had a good time having the conversation with you and really appreciate it.
Yep. Well, guys, that's going to be all the time we have here today. Remember, the only way to get what you want is go through the fire.